Hey guys, once more, it's Steve here from CELTAhelper.com, and this time I've got something really special for you. I sat down with a CELTA trainer a couple of days ago called Tami to ask her for tips and advice on the CELTA course. So we talked about things like most common problems her students have and how to avoid them, recommendations for grammar books if you're not sure about grammar, and lots of other practical things for you to get through the course. So before we go on to the interview, I'll just say that anything that's mentioned in the interview you can see links to below in the description. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. And if you're short of time, you can skip through quite quickly by reading the question below the videos that are playing and just skip to the question you most want the answer to, and you can come back and watch the rest of it another time. So hope that's useful, and let's get started with the interview. Okay, so hello Tami, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. I really appreciate it, and it's fantastic to have a CELTA trainer on here to ask some questions to, and I'm sure all the audience, all my readers and so on will really appreciate you taking the time out to answer some questions for them, because they have a lot of questions and I'm sure you'll be able to help with many of them. So we'll start with a couple of introductory questions about yourself, and then we'll get into some more the CELTA focused ones and do a few to round up at the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so just to get things started, could you tell us about you and your background?
Yeah, I'm a British native, come from England, and following university, I decided to volunteer in Guatemala within the TEFL industry with children, teaching them English, and I found it so rewarding and challenging and stimulating that through a few contacts on the project, I found out about the CELTA course. And I came to Madrid, I completed the course, and I was contracted straight off the course into Chester, and basically my career's just taken off from there within the TEFL world.
Oh, wow. So you did the course at Chester and then you've been there since, is that right?
Exactly, yeah. 5 years exactly, yeah.
Wow. Oh, okay. 5 years ago, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I was going to say then, could you describe what would you say is your main motivation for teaching EFL or ESL? What really pushed you into it?
I think, I studied sign language at university, and I think I realised that having English as my my mother tongue was actually a gift, and I don't have any impairments. I'm able to communicate with anybody in the world, and I just became extremely passionate, especially in Guatemala, about this idea that I can enhance and empower and enable other people to be able to communicate with other people all around the world. And communication is everything, and I can help students with that, and that's really, it's my vocation.
Yeah, it's very empowering, isn't it? And to give people that gift of English, and that's amazing. Okay, great. And I suppose you've maybe kind of answered the next one I was going to say is how you came to be a CELTA trainer. Was that a plan, or did that just kind of happen?
No. I think early on in my teaching career, especially here at Chester, attending training sessions, I saw the value of collaboration. I saw how working together as teachers, sharing information, supporting one another, it led to teacher development and it led to better classes. And I had the opportunity here to deliver some in-house training. And it really opened up the TEFL world for me. It showed me that there is not just being a teacher. Yeah, there are other branches within the same field.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something as well. A lot of people ask me about jobs afterwards, and I think quite a few schools do really look out for their trainees, don't they? And I can guess in Chester is very similar, isn't that respect?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's really reassuring, isn't it, to have that? Because I suppose a lot of people are doing CELTA, isn't it? Most of them, I imagine, haven't really done much EFL teaching in
No, and I
previously.
think that's very important. A lot of people come in, they're fresh to the field, and maybe they see it simply as a passport, to use an expression, simply to go around the world. But I think it's a lot more than that. The industry has many opportunities, including teaching, like materials design, management, examining. There is, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are many opportunities, and it all starts with the CELTA.
That's funny you say that, because I have two good friends. I won't mention their names because I haven't told them I'm doing this yet, but they actually worked at Chester at the school you were at for like 5 or 6 years, and one of them is now part-time doing materials design. And the other is working for a publishing company, all on the back of their EFL experience. And
well, there you go.
Yeah, it's just funny you mentioned that. The circle, just made me think of them. That's really cool. So then, if I suppose move on to some of the CELTA-focused questions. Could you say, what do you find are some of the most common problems that your students have or your CELTA trainees have when they start the course?
Yes. I think one of the key ones is, as you mentioned previously, that maybe they don't have much experience of teaching. So they could be changing professions. So they're hitting the ground running effectively. At the end of the day, the course is theory and practical based. It's quite hands-on from the word go, which is exactly what teachers need. And maybe that comes as a little bit of a shock, because they've maybe come out of office jobs. And they're used to maybe go sit back for a while, taking and assimilating information. But this is, you're assimilating and then you're putting it straight into practice, which every teacher needs at the start of their career. And that can be quite daunting, maybe, for the first couple of days until they establish a routine. And I think one of the key things, on any CELTA course, and what I've seen, and having gone through it myself, time management, not just on the course, but when they go home at the end of the day of the course. There is a lot of content. There's planning, there's essays, and organising the time, compartmentalising, in order to get that done, so that they don't feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's a word that springs to mind, is that sort of overwhelming feeling and a bit of stress. And I know a lot of people ask me about that as well through the blog. And so you think time management, absolutely key to getting the right balance.
Yeah, and compartmentalising that time, setting aside an amount of time to dedicate to the essay, to dedicate to the materials, to support their lesson, and trying to be strict with that. And depending on the individual and their circumstances, some people are surprised that they need to dedicate some of their weekends on the course to the essays. And I think it's what I've always said to any trainees that at the end of the day you need to make sure that it's 1 month. It's 1 month of your life, and really it's what you get out of the course. Whatever you put in, you're going to get out at the end of it. And it's that's the key thing, really.
Yeah, I suppose it's all about the people who commit and they put in the work and you get the results, and there's no other test really, isn't it? It's just how much you're willing to put in, and everyone should get through, right? If they take the advice of the trainers. And I remember mine was, what was it, August 2007. That month was as a phrase somebody else said, you live, breathe, sleep CELTA.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. But it is only a month. That was the thing I found different, was I was kind of expecting it to go on forever because I did it just after graduating from university. But it's over, it's over in the blink of an eye compared to other courses. So
yeah, it's 4 weeks of your life.
Yeah.
And having lived it and breathed it, as you say, myself, the more that, I dedicated quite a lot of my weekend to it, but I don't regret a single moment. Because once the course is completed, you've got your passport.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, then again, another thing people get really worried about before the course, as I know from the amount of questions, is for someone who's not confident with grammar, would there be a particular book you would recommend to start with, or any resources?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many resources out there, and unless there's maybe a reading list provided by a centre, it can be quite daunting. One that was recommended to us, and I've always stood by and always recommended it to my trainees, is the Michael Swan Practical English Usage. Yeah. Just simply because it breaks it down. It explains it, it gives so many examples of the language. It's easy to understand terminology. You don't have to decode the terminology in order to understand the grammar. Yeah. And that's always served for me very, very, very well.
Great. Yeah. So that was a nice, really clear sort of book to get started, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And that's a bit of a staple, I think, in CELTA reading lists. That's pretty much recommended across the board. I've seen that in a lot of places. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for me it's a Bible, and it's still on my bookshelf today, and I was only just using it yesterday, and that's still 5 years on.
Yeah, that speaks for itself, doesn't it? Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And maybe we've kind of covered a little bit of the next one. What would be your main tips or advice for someone who's about to start a CELTA course in the coming days or weeks?
I'd say if there is an online Moodle or an online platform, which for the course, familiarise yourself, go on, look around, look at often tutors out, for example, on the courses here, the tutor puts up a timetable of the course, so you can, start planning, okay, so the first week's going to be more theory-based, or, the second and third week we can see essays are coming, so you can start thinking about the time management, looking at pre-reading, if there's any pre-reading materials or any pre-tasks that you could start looking at for the first day. And even just on a basic practical level, things such as stationery, like getting a lever arch file with device. Because at the end of the day, you've got a lot of material, which is amazing, and for your benefit as a student, a trainee on the course, just to have that organised. And if you've got a file, and you can just put it in day 1, day 2, and it makes your life so much easier.
Yeah, we actually, in my current teaching job, we have it's EAP for English for Academic Purposes, and it's a portfolio system, so the students have to file the stuff, and they get a lot of paper. It's quite heavy on paper, surprisingly heavy. Yeah. But yeah, it really separates the ones who do well if they start organising early on, and I think on the CELTA it's no different, is it? It's because you get so much.
Not at all. Yeah. Because at some point when you have to do the receptive skills essay, there's an essay on on a certain area, but maybe you've had a training session on that the previous week. If you've got a system, day 1, day 2 that corresponds to the timetable, you know where to go to access your notes. Yeah,
retrieving them. And that's interesting you said about Moodle, because I work with Blackboard as well in my current job, and it's very similar. Moodle, Blackboard, so both virtual learning environments. And that's interesting that courses, I'm guessing almost all centres offer that now, probably, do they? Well,
I think it's essential for a course to offer it, simply because we're lucky that where we do the courses here at Chester, we're working in an academy, but at the end of the day, the academy has to shut at some point and you have to go home. The fact that you can access any of the information 24 hours around the clock, it means that there's no worries about having to take heavy course books or textbooks home, or trying to access information that maybe you hadn't thought you needed. It's all there. It's all online.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a nice addition to have, because when I did it, none of those things existed, and we were even using overhead projectors and stuff like that, which just sounds crazy. But there you go. Okay, fantastic. And then, turning it on you a little bit. If you could go back in time, obviously, is there anything for your CELTA that you might have done differently, and why, if so?
Okay, good question. I sometimes think about that now as a trainer myself, and I think what I've come to really quickly realise is that the input sessions that we give the trainees are considered, model lessons. They're meant to be exemplary lessons in terms of classroom management
Yeah.
and all the techniques. And maybe at the time I was grappling with all the information, and maybe I didn't fully see that, and maybe I didn't take as many risks as now I would. I wish I'd taken a few more risks and tried to implement more of the techniques, more of the skills I'd seen coming from the tutors. I think what happens sometimes on the CELTA course is people are scared of making mistakes, trying to be perfect. But at the end of the day, as a teacher, any teacher, even experienced teachers will tell you, you're constantly learning every day how to improve your lesson, how to make them better. And I think that's it. I feel that if I had taken just a few more risks, I could have got even more feedback. The feedback on the course is so valuable. It's the one time in your career when you need it, when you're kickstarting your career in teaching, you get constant daily feedback, immediate feedback to improve. And the more risks you can take, the more you try to implement, the more feedback you can get.
Yeah, that's really good, because actually you reminded me, I found that when I did the CELTA, the feedback I got a lot. It was very detailed, and also it's very supportive. And the CELTA trainers, they seem to have this really nice way of delivering feedback, as you'd expect. And it was really helpful. It was, at first you're kind of scared of what they might say, but they generally deliver it. They tend to look for the positives and then give you some tips. And it was really, really interesting to hear. Oh, that's good. Yeah. So you were saying, I suppose, trainees should try to be bold and just go for it a little with implementing things they've just learned.
Embrace the course. See the techniques as something to mirror image in their teaching. It's high quality training on the courses, and they're giving you a model image, a representation that you can adapt and make it your style, and not be afraid to have a go.
For me, I think CELTA has always been that sort of the idea of learn by doing. The phrase comes to mind. It's just the ultimate in that, isn't it? We start today, next couple of days you're teaching, get on with it and go for it, and we'll tell you how to improve. And it's
exactly. And like you say, it's so supportive. They're always there to tell you, great, this worked really well, and this happened. How can we maybe do it different next time? And how can we take it forward? You just got me thinking about mine, actually. It's funny, I've gone right back to that moment, even though it was like 11 years ago. Okay, great. So I suppose coming to the end, really, then, you said you work at Chester School in Madrid. Could you tell us a little bit about the Chester School of English and the CELTA courses that you offer there? Chester is a small chain academy, highly reputable in Madrid, and I think it focuses heavily on teacher support. There are so many opportunities for professional development, and for that reason, many teachers stay a long time. We've got a lot of long-standing teachers, and it's always a very supportive environment for all teachers across all different types of levels. And within that environment, we have the CELTA courses being run here. And I would say that the CELTA courses and the CELTA tutors, they're approachable, experienced, very professional people that are going to guarantee you high quality training within the setting of the TEFL world. It's an ideal example. And I think it is like touching on what we talked about earlier. There is the additional support in terms of plenty of online facilities such as the Moodle, as well as a wide range of materials, current materials that are being used in the TEFL industry. Yeah,
that's great. And you said it's kind of small. Am I right in thinking they've got a couple of schools throughout Madrid? Or
yeah, it's a chain of two.
Chain of two, right? Yeah. Because I've actually, I just thought about this. I've actually been there when I came to see my friends, and I was waiting for them, but I've not taught there, so I've been in the school. I actually remember.
Okay.
That's kind of funny. Okay, great. And also, can I ask you a further question about the CELTA courses? Do they run? Do you do the online? Do you do the part-time as well, or is it all full-time? Or...
So we have 5 full-time courses offered throughout the year. That's face-to-face in the summer, and 3 during the term time. And then additionally, there is a part-time course partly run online as well, which extends over a number of months.
Right, okay, yeah. And out of curiosity, who are the main kind of trainees you have in the Chester School as far as on the CELTA course? Do you have certain groups, or is it all kinds of people coming through?
The demographic?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I mean, it's very varied from one course to another. On my course, for example, you have people from Eastern Europe, from, Ireland, England, Scotland, Holland, America.
Wow.
We're talking about, national, international. And equally, there are some locals like Spanish, the Spanish that've got maybe bilingual parents.
Yeah.
So it tends, and on another course, we had a number of Romanian students, and the demographic can vary widely.
Yeah, that's
which makes for really good courses because people bring so much different backgrounds together. And of course, if some are bilingual, it means they've gone through the learning process themselves, and they make for very supportive teachers because they understand the process of what it is to learn the English language.
Yeah, because I actually came off the back of I did a languages degree at undergraduate level. I did French and Spanish, and then it definitely helped because there were people on my course who they hadn't studied languages, and then for them to try and sort of realize just how difficult it was, it took a little bit more getting used to, whereas I kind of had more of an idea, I suppose, where things would be difficult for the learners and things that would be confusing. If I was learning Spanish, I could instantly see the reverse in English. So but that's interesting because obviously you said about this courses, Chester School being in Madrid, really multicultural, sort of cosmopolitan, and that's great.
I mean, I think it's the ideal setting.
Yeah.
I came to do a course and I've stayed. I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's nice to hear. I suppose then last thing really, if any listeners or readers are interested, what is the best way to get information about doing the CELTA course at Chester then?
Yeah, they can just go directly online to the website www.chester.ses, and there's a section on that website purely for CELTA, and they can look at the information there, and there is a contact email address which is celta@chester.s, and they can even do an application there and then through the website.
And out of curiosity, how long before the CELTA course do the applications normally close? Is it about a month or is it less?
It's quite, ideally a month, but, last minute applications can definitely be considered.
Okay, great. So...
And they have been in the past.
Okay, fantastic. I won't take any more of your time, but thank you very much for answering the questions.
No, you're welcome.
Really appreciate it, and I know all the people watching and listening will get a lot from it because they're all keen to get any little bit of advice, especially from a CELTA trainer like yourself. So, thank you very much for your time.
No, you're welcome. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, guys, so there you have it. I hope you found that really useful and packed full of helpful information and tips. I know I got a lot from it just from doing it myself. And remember, if there are any links you want to follow up, as I said at the start, just have a look in the description below or in the comments and you'll see them there. And also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up or a like. If you're on YouTube, remember you can subscribe and get more of these notifications, or you can jump on over to facebook.com/CELTA helper to see the latest blog posts I put out, or even just check out CELTAhelper.com for any more new articles and updates. So, hope you got a lot from it, and I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy.